All right, you sure you want to do this? Okay. If you get canceled, I guess it is kind of my fault, but it's ultimately yours. Oh, we're rolling. Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Introverted Thinking, also known as TI, and I'm going to let y'all know right now, if you are one of those people who are easily triggered, even by somebody just stating their own opinion and reasoning behind their opinion, if you are somebody who's like a social justice warrior, or, just really has strong values and all of these things, and you haven't really even taken too much time to actually see your biases in those things, you probably shouldn't watch this video. That is your trigger warning. Let's go. All right, so like I said, my name is Introverted Thinking, also known as TI. I'm the dominant function of the ISTP and the INTP, the auxiliary function of the ENTP and the ESTP, the tertiary function of the INFJ and the ISFJ, and then the inferior function of the ENFJ and the ESFJ. So that's pretty much another way of saying that any of y'all other types that don't have me are not really logical, consistent, and pretty overall rational thinkers. I'm kidding. No, seriously, I'm kidding. Everybody uses introverted thinking to an extent, and in fact, a lot of types might even have a little bit of, an edge on introverted thinking, depending on the type of task that they're using. To be totally fair and honest, each function is equally important, as I hope that you've been able to realize during this series. But this series happens to ironically be an introverted thinking series because one of the many facets that I have is kind of this data dumping, this information that I'm giving you. So as a matter of fact, I should probably give you some of those facets right now. So some of my facets are logical consistency, which I'm always checking for. I really have my own personal opinions aside from the tribe or society. Whatever people might be thinking, I'm going to have my own opinions and my own thoughts on that, and I'm going to have my own reasoning behind those thoughts if I'm done well. I have critique of societal norms and interpersonal engagement. I focus on how parts come together and also how they're taken apart. I really value principles over values. It's not to say that I don't have values, but I tend to focus more on principles. I'm very big on critical thinking and intellectual honesty, which we're going to get more into as the video goes on. I can be seen as very pedantic. I like to refine my arguments and my logic a lot, especially when I'm with NE or actions and body movement when paired with SE. I'm also really big on systems thinking, and I really like self-auditing, which means I pretty much question everything. Some people might actually refer to me as a dick, and I would say that's not totally true. I'm also the scrotum. No, but seriously, I can be a dick at times, and it's not really intentional a lot of the times, but sometimes it is. And I guess that depends on how you define being a dick. Now, of course, we're not talking about the male organ. This time we're talking about a different connotation. The term for people who happen to be socially insensitive, tactless, and kind of, just people who like to speak their own mind and not really give a about what other people have to say about it. Yeah, that tends to be me. See, as y'all might know, I come with my Siamese twin, extroverted feeling. Extroverted feeling cares a lot about what people think. Extroverted feeling is always considering what other people are feeling, what other people are thinking, what other people might be getting hurt, stuff like that. And sometimes if extroverted feeling does not have enough of me to be able to be like, hey, you need to have your own thoughts too. You need to think about yourself too. Then extroverted feeling can get run over by so many other people, and it's not going to really have a backbone. That's where I come in. I am definitely the spine of extroverted feeling. I'm the part of extroverted feeling that's like, hey, yes, we're nice and all of that, but we need to have a logical framework behind all of this. Yes, okay, sure. We're going to build society in this way, but we're going to have actual rational reasoning behind why we are making all of these obscure social norms. And a lot of times we have to revisit those social norms so that we can actually question, like, wait a minute, does it still make sense to be walking on the side of the road where women are walking and if we're walking them? Because sure, FE might be like, oh, it's being gentlemanlike. But in actuality, if we look at the past, we really did that because swords were on the other side and we did not want somebody to hit them. Now we make up other reasons like, oh, well, if a car is coming by and splashes water, then the man will get most of it. Whatever floats your boat. But let's just keep on reassessing like what actually makes sense. Does it still make sense as a social norm that the guy has to pay for the woman on the date? When back in the past, we mainly did that because the women were not getting equal pay. Now, I believe that we're at a place where it's pretty equal pay. And so does that really have to still be a thing? And that's just another thing in general. Whatever societal norms that FE might come with, and even some values that FI might come with, I am going to question them. I'm going to bring some certain things up. I am Riley Freeman when he was debating with Tom Dubois about R. Kelly going to jail.
And I hope you boys aren't too upset about me having to prosecute Mr. Kelly.
Hey, man, you do what you gotta do.
Why R. Kelly, huh? What did R. Kelly do to you?
He's accused of relieving himself on an underage girl on tape, which is against the law.
Okay. But let's examine this whole peeing thing. So I can pee in the toilet and it's okay. But if I pee on a person, it's like not okay?
Well, yeah.
Well, what if I'm peeing and Huey's in the bathroom and I accidentally pee on Huey? Should I go to jail?
What the hell would I be doing in the bathroom while you're in the bathroom?
Hold up. Remember when we used to sleep in the same bed when we was littler? From time to time, I'd have a little accident.
You still do?
Shut up. So, Mr. Dubois, Mr. I Wanna Lie is up for peeing. What's the statute of limitations on bedwetting? Why not prosecute me and R. Kelly at the same time, huh?
Now, Riley, no one's going to prosecute you for bedwetting.
And you shouldn't. It's a natural bodily function. And now every in the world gonna be scared to pee. I may never pee again.
Riley, it was a little girl.
Oh, I seen that girl. She ain't little. I'm little.
Yes.
Gary Coleman's little.
Yes.
Mini-Me is little.
Very.
And to the best of my knowledge, we all managed to avoid getting peed on so far.
But what about the victim?
Oh, yes, the victim. At what point does personal responsibility become a factor in this equation?
I don't think that...
I see piss coming, I move. She saw piss coming, she stayed.
Yeah, she did,
And why
but-
should I have to miss out on the next R. Kelly album just for that?
Man, you just got beat by an 8-year-old.
I am Linford when he just happened to give that message to his coworker just from speaking his mind, and then afterwards he said what he really was thinking. And I mean, hey, I feel that. Okay. Do you have any examples of times where you might have hurt someone's feelings where you were just saying it how you thought it?
Oh yeah, definitely. This woman at my job, she asked me if I noticed anything different about her, and I said no. And she said, "Well, you didn't notice that I done lost like 30 pounds?" And I was like, "No." I could have said yeah, and I know that would have made her feel better, but I was just trying to be truthful. You asked me a question, I said no. You asked me another question, I said no. I didn't notice. And she called me the asshole. And I was here trying to figure why she was so mad at me. You asked me the questions, and then now I'm the asshole because you still look fat to me. Like why was that me? Because I answer honestly. And then people heard it and they was like, "You wrong." I'm like, "How wrong?" Like, you know she lost weight, you know she been exercising. Like, well, I didn't even know what she was talking about when she asked me at first. Do I notice anything different about it? I didn't want to say the wrong thing there. I did pause all that. Your head bigger? I mean, what am I supposed to say? Like, no, I don't notice anything different. You got different clothes on than yesterday. About it. My hair wasn't different, so I was really confused by that question. And then she said she lost 30 pounds, but if you lose 30 pounds and you was 300, people not gonna notice too quick. If you 185 and you lose 30 pounds, yes, I would definitely notice that. But 300 to 270 and you 5'5", I'm not gonna notice that. And that's how a lot of my situations end up. And then I'm in a debate or a fuss with somebody about something else.
That was a great example.
Yeah,
I am most comedians. I kind of actually dominate the comedian territory. Why is that? Because even though we all care about societal norms and extroverted feeling and all of that, let's be honest, we all need a space to be able to laugh at the crazy and absurd things like racism or like even Nah, I won't go there. But seriously though, we need a space to be able to not have these societal norms and these moral values always like suppressing us. Because honestly speaking, once I'm suppressed, once I'm shamed enough, I don't really go anywhere. Like, I'm not gonna die out. You haven't really extinguished my fire. You've really just got me to go into hiding. And what I mean by that is that I'm still going to think whatever racist thoughts that I have until somebody's able to disassemble my logic, to disassemble my math, to be able to have the patience to go down in there and really help me reframe and rewire. Because the thing about me as a function is that I'm kind of like those Jenga towers. So even though I'm considered accuracy, it's more about sharpening my accuracy. I can have a whole framework, I can have a whole ivory tower, a whole Jenga tower of things that make up an opinion of mine. And it could be very perfect looking and elaborate and all of that, but it might not be right. And the reason behind that is because all of my things are mainly about logical consistency and making sense. So all of my opinions, usually, especially when held by somebody who does it right, which is not always even with the TP types. Not all TP types are even superb at using me as a function, despite it being their strength. I feel like I'm actually probably one of the most misunderstood functions. But when I'm done right, then I'm actually really important. And I help quite a lot. And you see the importance that I bring to the table, and you can see how I'm not really just trying to be a dick. I'm actually trying to help people out. I'm an auditor. I come up and I'm like, hey, did you know that your stove only goes up to this heat? And, you know, sometimes it kind of does. All right, cool. Well, I just wanted to let you know, whatever you decide to do with that information is on you. And so, yeah, I like to just state things without the bias, without the emotional attachment. I'm just here to let you know what it is. I'm here to refine my process. And so, like I said, I'm aiming for accuracy. And what that means is that I'm mainly looking to be able to sharpen my own process. Whenever I'm receiving information, I have to be like, okay, wait a minute. What are my personal thoughts on this? Why do I have these personal thoughts? Are they still serving me? Where did I even get them from? And do I have any biases toward this? Do I have any emotional feelings or emotional attachments to this that's probably keeping me from getting to the right answer? If I'm able to continue to do that with all the information that I receive and continue to go back into my head every now and then to be able to reassess all of my opinions, like, do I still believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God? And why do I believe that? Why do I not believe that? Where's the information I'm getting this coming from? Do I still believe that transgender women and transgender men are not really men or women? Why do I not? Or why do I believe that? Do I still believe that sex before marriage is wrong? Or this, that? Do I still believe this? Why or why not? And even though I might be shamed by the people out there, society, FE, FI, all of that, what do I think? It doesn't mean I have to share my true opinion and my actual conclusion. In fact, a lot of times I tend to keep quiet because anytime I open my mouth, I tend to actually offend a lot of people. Like I said, I trigger a lot of people. But those who actually are willing to sit down and listen to my math, they're able to learn a lot. And I'm able to learn a lot too, because then they can refine my thinking. And that's ultimately what I want to do. I want to refine my thinking. I want to be able to make sure that I'm always getting to the heart of the truth. I'm like, no matter how much it might hurt me, I'm aiming to get the truth. And a lot of times I know that's not going to happen. Why? Because the truth is quite elusive. The truth is not always something that we can become certain about. There are so many things that a lot of people think that they're certain about. They think that it's truth when really it's just their opinion. And it's sad that a lot of people confuse their opinions for an objective and empirical truth. I, when done right, have done well to be able to sit with uncertainty, but still maintain clarity. What I mean by that is that I'm able to understand that I might not know 1000%, infinite percent, 100%, whatever, that this is the objective empirical truth. But rather, this is my opinion that I've concluded right now with the information that I have, and I'm going to continue to be in an open space to be able to receive information. That doesn't mean that the opinions that I have are always going to be loosey-goosey. There are some that are still being worked on, and there are some that are always still being refined, but they're still quite strong because I have enough data to be able to support that opinion that I have right now. But at the same time, I'm aware that other people can take different routes, just like math, to be able to conclude the same opinion or maybe even have a different opinion. It all depends. Now let's get back to Jenga towers. If I have this really beautiful erect opinion that I have constructed with each little Jenga tower piece, like I said, it could be beautiful. I could argue it all the way through. It holds itself up, but at the end of the day, it could still be wrong. And a good TI user knows that their opinion could still be wrong. That no matter how beautiful that they've constructed it, no matter how eloquently that they might have spoken it, it could still have some pieces that are not actually accurate. And the hard thing when it comes to us TI users is that if we really built this beautiful Jenga tower, it's going to take you a lot of work to be able to pick apart our logic. But that's what we like to do to other people. We love, especially the higher up that I am in a person, so especially those ITPs and those ETP types, we love to pick apart logic. We love to get in there, see somebody's Jenga tower, and just start pulling it up. Saying like, hey, how strong is this Jenga tower? Like, seriously. And if it can't stand up, then it means that we needed to reconstruct it and give some work. That's where a lot of people go into deconstruction, for example, of their faith, see how hard or see how strong it's able to hold up, and then they put it back. But a lot of people are afraid that this beautiful Jenga tower that they've made is going to come down tumbling, and then they might be lazy or they might be afraid that they won't be able to rebuild it. They won't be able to reconstruct it in a manner that's going to be a lot stronger. And this isn't just with faith, but it's with a whole bunch of other opinions. And that's okay. Not everybody has the strength to be able to constantly refine their thinking, to be able to constantly think like, hey, is this the right thing to be thinking? Is this accurate? Is this coming from a valid source? There's so much thought labor that's going into that all the time. And I understand why a lot of people might not even want to really know the truth, might not really want to destroy this ivory tower that they have built and then risk having to reconstruct it now, especially if they find out that the tower that they had built for so long was not even really the truth. Now, when it comes to truth, I definitely have to come by with my Siamese twin extroverted feeling. When me and extroverted feeling are getting along very well, we tend to have the same opinions, we tend to have the same truths, and then whatever I bring to extroverted feeling is more of like my spokesman. Extroverted feeling knows a lot of times how to deliver my opinions, but in a way that somehow magically does not offend people, does not make people have to start getting all riled up and wanting to cancel me or anything like that. Instead, extroverted feeling has a patience to be able to really sit down and break down a truth and everything like that. But when extroverted feeling is too hyped up on their own morality, on their own idea of ethics, which is also obscure. Who came up with ethics anyway? But let's not get into that. When they're all hyped up on that moral high horse, then extroverted feeling kind of doesn't even want to hear almost anything that I have to say, because anything that I have to say is just an attack. It's just, you're not supposed to be thinking that. And then that's when I end up getting risked of being canceled. So I just keep my mouth shut until somebody else might be able to finally point out that indeed the emperor's clothes are not there. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of the difference between a principle and a value. So a principle is a fundamental truth or proposition that serves as the foundation for a system of belief or behavior. Principles are often seen as universal rules or guidelines that apply across various situations. So some characteristics could be universal. Principles are generally seen as applicable to everyone, regardless of individual beliefs or cultural differences. Some guiding rules, they serve as rules or standards that guide actions and decisions. Principles are often considered objective and consistent, providing a clear framework for behavior. So some examples could be like, honesty is the best policy, or do no harm, or treat others as you want to be treated, which is the golden rule. When really we should actually have the platinum rule, treat others how they want to be treated. But anyway, let's talk about a value. So a value, by definition, is a deeply held belief about what is important or desirable. Values reflect what individuals or groups consider to be important in life, shaping their attitudes and behaviors. So some characteristics can be personal or cultural. Values can vary widely between individuals and cultures, reflecting personal or collective beliefs and priorities. Values are subjective and based on personal or cultural beliefs and experiences. They influence preferences, choices, and behaviors by defining what is considered good, desirable, or worthwhile. So some examples could be family is the most important thing, hard work leads to success, freedom of expression is essential. So some key differences is scope and universality. Principles are generally universal and apply broadly across different contexts and cultures. Values are more subjective and can vary greatly between individuals, communities, and cultures. So the function, principles serve as foundational rules or guidelines for behavior, providing a consistent framework for decision making, and values reflect personal or collective beliefs and priorities, influencing what individuals or groups consider important or desirable. And then lastly, the application. Principles guide actions in a wide range of situations, often serving as ethical or moral standards. Values shape attitudes and behaviors by influencing what is considered valuable or worthy of pursuit. So now I'm just going to provide you guys an example, and I'm going to explain to you why this is important. So an example to illustrate the difference is that a principle could be honesty is the best policy. This principle suggests that being truthful is a fundamental rule that should be followed in all situations. A value could be I value honesty because it builds trust. This value reflects a personal belief in the importance of honesty due to its role in fostering trust and reliability in relationships. Understanding the distinction between principles and values can help in navigating personal and professional decisions, ensuring that actions align with both universal guidelines and individual beliefs. Another example of a principle could be maybe like that one Spider-Man quote, which is, with whom much is given, much is required. If you are pretty much, with great power comes great responsibility. So I guess one of those things is actually from the Bible, and the other one is from Spider-Man, but what's the difference anyway? Jesus, Peter Parker, come on now. Introverted thinking tends to focus on principles, these things that are more universal. They are less personal and less coming from like a place of from the heart, whereas values are more of an FI thing. And so this is a very good distinction because a lot of times we'll be able to see the differences between an IFP and an ITP, or an EFP and an ETP, by how many principles they might go by versus how many values that they might go by. FI is mostly going to go by their values, and then TI users, regardless of where it is in their stack, are mostly going to go by their principles. But remember that there's also overlap. I'm sorry, I've been talking a lot, but like I said, I am really a function that loves to delineate. That means I really love to like define a lot of things. I love to distinguish things, you know? Just like introverted feeling kind of often looks at the differences between them and the other person. Me as a function, I like to split hairs. That's why I get called pedantic sometimes, because I'm going to look at the differences between calling something similar versus calling something congruent. I'm going to really focus on a lot of these thoughts, a lot of these opinions that we might have, and I'm going to be splitting those hairs so that we can come to an understanding that, hey, we are using this word, but we might not be meaning the same thing by that word. Or, hey, this is actually probably a better word to fit that, or there's a reason why I'm choosing this specific word in particular. And so a lot of times people can call me pedantic. They might think like, oh, well, you know what I mean. But sometimes I really don't. Sometimes I really have to know exactly what word that you're talking about because I'm so precise in the way that I try to think, in the way that I try to articulate my thoughts, my opinions. So that's why when people misquote me, I get really, really angry.
Multivariate analysis have been done.
Well,
So I can give you an
keep on
example.
talking about
Wait a second.
multivariate analysis.
Let me give you an
No.
example.
I'm saying that 9% pay gap exists.
Yeah.
That's a gap between men and women. I'm not saying why it exists, but it exists. Now,
but
if
you
you're
have
a
to say
woman,
why
that
it
seems
exists.
pretty unfair.
You have to say why it exists.
But do you agree that it's unfair? If you're a woman,
Not necessarily.
and on average you're getting paid 9% less than a man, that's not fair, is it?
It depends on why it's happening. I can give you an example. Okay. There's a personality trait known as agreeableness. Agreeable people are compassionate and polite. And agreeable people get paid less than less agreeable people for the same job. Women are more agreeable than men.
Again, a vast generalization. Some
It's not
women
a
are not more
generalization.
agreeable than
Yes,
men.
that's true. But that's right. And some women get paid more than men.
So you were saying that by and large, women are too agreeable to get the pay rises they deserve.
No, I'm saying that that's one component of a multivariate equation that predicts salary. It accounts for maybe 5% of the variance, something like that.
So surely
you
the
need about
answer-
another 20, you need about another 18 factors, one of which is gender. And there is prejudice, there's no doubt about that, but it accounts for a much smaller proportion of the variance in the pay gap than the radical feminists claim.
Okay, so rather than denying the pay gap exists, which is what you did at the beginning of this conversation, shouldn't you say to women, rather than being agreeable and not asking for a pay rise, go and ask for a pay rise? Make yourself disagreeable with your boss.
Oh, definitely, there's that. But I also didn't deny it existed. I denied it existed because of gender.
Okay.
See, because I'm very, very, very careful with my words.
So the pay gap exists, you accept that, but you're saying, I mean, the pay gap between men and women exists, but you're saying it's not because of gender, it's because women are too agreeable to ask for pay rises. So
It's one of the reasons.
Okay, one of the reasons.
So yeah, there's quite a lot to me as a function, and I've probably already said too much, but in essence, I am most concerned with finding the truth. That doesn't always mean that I have the truth, but usually I'm going to be working on the best ways on how I could process the information that I receive to be able to verify whether or not it's accurate or not. I'm also very big on splitting hairs to be able to really get to the heart of a matter, to be able to understand it at its core. I'm really big on delivering a truth, and with the help of extroverted feeling, hopefully it's delivered with kindness so that I can still heal, because I do still want to help the world. I'm not just a dick for no reason, at least depending on the person that I'm being used by. I like to poke at society, when I'm in a comedian and, I'm talking about all of the crazy things that's going on in the world and, making jokes about even the darkest things like 9/11 and everything. Hey, I just want to have fun. If you guys have ever played that game, Cards Against Humanity, that is a very introverted thinking game. We're just being clever and witty and punny and all of these things just to have fun and play with these ideas. And we really should not get too overworked by all of this. At the end of the day, hopefully there's enough extroverted feeling in the room to be able to have trust there, and there's enough introverted feeling in the room to be able to know that nobody's really a bad person completely. And then again, we have to get into the whole idea of what makes up a bad person and boom, 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 and all of that, but we're not going to get into that. But anyway, yeah, I really like to just dive deep and be able to dissect things, and I like to have my own opinion. That's pretty much the essence of it. Even at the lowest level of me being used, I'm going to have my opinion that is going to be separate from what everybody else thinks. Now, whether or not I share it depends on it might be on the trust that I have in the group, the type of extroverted feeling that's there, or how high I am in a person's stack, But at the end of the day, I just want to be able to have my own opinion that is separate from everybody else in the group, because then that is kind of where I find a little bit of my identity. I almost have a lot of my identity with my own thoughts. If you made it this far and you managed to not get triggered, congratulations. You're not a pussy. And I like that. I like you. And so because I like you, I want to invite you to actually come and hang out with Denzel Mensah at denzelmensah.com. You should probably book a session with him to be able to find out if you have me in your stack. And even if you don't, it's all right. He can help you with those who do have me in your stack. Because I know that you probably hate a few of me. You've probably canceled a few people of mine. But now you'll probably come to understand hey, a lot of us are not really all that bad. And we can't help the things that we think. We should be allowed to be able to think the things that we think. Just like an introverted feeling should be allowed to be able to feel whatever they want to feel and to be able to self-express, I should also be able to express my own opinions of what I think, and I should be able to think the things I think. I can't help that I think XYZ. Unless if somebody allows me enough space to be able to voice that I think XYZ, and they have the patience to be able to go back and forth with me in a kind and calm manner most of the time, to be able to maybe even debate with me, to pick apart that Jenga tower that I built so tightly. And hopefully I'm also willing to be able to actually let that go, because that's the true sign of me actually seeking truth.
Okay, you cited freedom of speech in that. Why should your right to freedom of speech trump a trans person's right not to be offended?
Because in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive. I mean, look at the conversation we're having right now. You know, like, you're certainly willing to risk offending me in the pursuit of truth. Why should you have the right to do that? It's been rather uncomfortable.
Well, I'm very glad I put you on the spot.
Well,
I'm very glad that I've exercised my freedom of speech.
You get my point. It's like you're doing what you should do, which is digging a bit to see what the hell's going on.
So
and that is what you should do. But you're exercising your freedom of speech to certainly risk offending me. And that's fine. I think more power to you as far as I'm concerned.
So you haven't sat there and I'm just trying to work that out. I mean,
Ha, gotcha.
you have got me. I'm trying to work that through in my head. Yeah, it took a while.
It did, yeah.
It took a while.
But truth is also something that is, again, still very elusive, and I'm aware that certainty is just as elusive. I could go on forever about myself, to be honest, and so I think I'm going to end it here. Book with Denzel Mensah, and another principle that I might leave with you guys: do not forget that you matter. Done. Thank you for taking the time to watch that video, and if you enjoyed that, please like and subscribe. It actually really helps out my channel a lot, so that more people who actually care about what I want to say can actually find me a lot more easier. Also, if you did enjoy it, then maybe you'll enjoy a lot of my other content as well, so be sure to check out some of my playlists where you'll be able to find a lot of my older videos and older content. And last but not least, if you would like any profiling sessions or coaching sessions, be sure to check out denzelmensah.com, where you'll be able to book me and you'll see the rest of my services. But thanks again, and have a great day.